High in the remote, windswept canyons of Tibet, a new giant is stirring. This is not a beast of myth or legend, but one of concrete, steel, and ambition. China has officially begun construction on the Mochuo hydropower station, a project so vast it actually dwarfs even the monumental Three Gorges Dam. The chosen location is the Yarlung Tsangpo, the river that becomes the mighty Brahmaputra as it carves its path into India. Beijing presents this as a triumph of engineering, a beacon of clean energy to power its future. But make no mistake, this is far more than an infrastructure project. It is a calculated move in the high-stakes geopolitical chess game being played out across the roof of the world, a direct challenge to the delicate balance of power in South Asia. This is not a story about kilowatts or cubic meters of water. It is a story about control. It is about who gets to turn the tap on and off for a river that is the lifeblood for millions of people downstream in India and Bangladesh. For New Delhi, the construction, launched on July 19, 2025, just across the contested border of Arunachal Pradesh, is not a distant concern but a clear and present danger. It represents a strategic chokehold, placing a vital artery of India's northeast directly under the command of its primary regional rival. This dam is a symbol of power, a tool of leverage, and a potential weapon in a silent war where the first shots are fired not with bullets, but with the controlled release or withholding of water. The stakes could not be higher. The timing of this announcement is no coincidence. As China's economy slows, a project of this magnitude, estimated to cost over $167 billion, serves as a powerful internal stimulus. It is a classic move, using massive state-led investment to fuel growth and project an image of unstoppable national progress. Yet, the external implications are what truly resonate across the border. For years, India has watched with apprehension as China built smaller dams on the Yarlung Tsangpo's tributaries. But the Mochuo project on the main channel is a fundamental game-changer. It transforms a latent fear into a concrete reality, forcing India to confront a future where its water security is no longer in its own hands. The world is now watching to see how this dramatic act of hydro-hegemony will unfold. Will this colossal structure become a source of shared prosperity, as Beijing claims, or a catalyst for conflict? The tremors from its construction are already being felt, not just in the seismic-prone earth of the Himalayas, but in the corridors of power in New Delhi, Dhaka, and beyond. This is the story of a river caught between two giants, a dragon and a tiger, where the flow of water could determine the flow of history for an entire subcontinent. The battle for the Brahmaputra has begun, and its outcome will define the future of Asian geopolitics. So what exactly is this project that has sent shockwaves through the region? The Mochuo hydropower station is, by every measure, a project of unprecedented scale and ambition. Located in Tibet's Medog County, it harnesses the immense power of the Yarlung Tsangpo River as it plunges through the Great Bend, a massive canyon near the Indian border. The sheer numbers are staggering. The dam is designed to generate 300 billion kilowatt-hours of electricity annually. To put that into perspective, that is nearly triple the output of the world's current largest hydropower station, China's own Three Gorges Dam. It is an engineering feat intended to be a cornerstone of China's goal to achieve carbon neutrality and a testament to its technological prowess. The project is not just a single dam, but a series of 5 cascading power stations, meticulously planned to maximize energy generation from the river's steep descent. Spearheaded by the state-owned behemoth China Yajiang Group, the construction is a decade-long endeavor, with the first power expected to flow sometime in the mid-2030s. The price tag is equally colossal, estimated to be around 1.2 trillion yuan, or roughly $170 billion. This massive expenditure serves a dual purpose for Beijing. Internally, it is a powerful injection into a slowing domestic economy, a Keynesian-style stimulus creating jobs and propping up GDP. Externally, it is a bold declaration of China's ability to tame nature and project its power far beyond its borders. The strategic location of the dam is what transforms it from a domestic energy project into a geopolitical flashpoint. The Great Bend is situated just upstream from where the river enters India's Arunachal Pradesh, a state that China claims as its own territory, referring to it as South Tibet. This proximity to a disputed border is no accident. It provides Beijing with immense leverage. By controlling the headwaters of the Brahmaputra, China gains the ability to regulate the flow of a river that is critical for agriculture, drinking water, and the livelihoods of millions in India's northeast and further downstream in Bangladesh. It is a strategic asset of immense value, a tap that can be tightened or opened at will. China's official narrative, of course, paints a very different picture. Beijing insists that the project is a run-of-the-river design, which it claims will have no major impact on downstream water levels. They frame it exclusively as a clean energy initiative, a responsible contribution to combating climate change. Yet, the sheer scale of the reservoir and the potential for water storage and diversion tell another story. The assurances of no major effect ring hollow in New Delhi and Dhaka, where the memory of China's opaque handling of water data during past incidents remains fresh. The dragon's gambit is clear: to secure its own energy future while simultaneously gaining a powerful lever of control over its southern neighbors. For India, the construction of the Motuo Dam is not a distant problem. It is an immediate and existential threat. The Brahmaputra River, known as the Siang in Arunachal Pradesh before flowing into Assam, is the lifeline of the entire northeastern region. It sustains agriculture, fisheries, and transportation for tens of millions of people. The prospect of China having unilateral control over this vital water source has set alarm bells ringing at the highest levels of the Indian government. Officials have described the situation as a potential chokehold, a scenario where China could manipulate water flows to serve its own strategic interests, holding the economy and security of India's northeast hostage. The most immediate fear is the weaponization of water. In a conflict scenario, China could theoretically restrict the river's flow, creating drought-like conditions and crippling the agricultural heartland of Assam. Conversely, it could release massive amounts of water from the reservoir without warning, causing catastrophic floods downstream. This is not mere speculation. India has previously accused China of not sharing hydrological data in a timely manner, leading to preventable flood damage in the past. The Motuo Dam amplifies this threat exponentially, giving Beijing a powerful, non-military tool to exert pressure on New Delhi, especially given the ongoing border tensions in Ladakh and Arunachal Pradesh. Beyond the direct military and strategic threats, the dam poses a grave risk to the region's food and water security. The Brahmaputra is a sediment-rich river, and these sediments are crucial for the fertility of the floodplains in Assam. A giant dam like Motuo will inevitably trap this silt, starving the downstream ecosystem of essential nutrients and leading to a long-term decline in agricultural productivity. This could trigger a severe food crisis, impacting some of India's most vulnerable communities. The entire ecological balance of one of Asia's most significant river basins is at risk, with consequences that would be felt for generations to come. The psychological impact is also significant. The very existence of the dam creates a persistent sense of vulnerability and uncertainty for the people of the Northeast. It reinforces a narrative of being at the mercy of an unpredictable and powerful neighbor. This feeling of helplessness is a strategic victory for China in itself. It sows anxiety and undermines the confidence of the local population in the Indian state's ability to protect their interests. For New Delhi, the challenge is not just technical or diplomatic. It is about reassuring its own citizens in a sensitive border region that their future is secure and that their lifeline will not be severed by a distant, unaccountable power. Faced with this unprecedented challenge, India is not standing idle. New Delhi has moved from a policy of quiet diplomacy to a robust, multi-pronged counter-strategy designed to mitigate the risks and reassert its own agency. The most visible part of this response is a massive push for its own infrastructure projects. India is now accelerating the construction of its own large dam on the Siang River in Arunachal Pradesh. The primary purpose of this project is to create a large storage reservoir that can act as a buffer. If China releases a sudden surge of water, the Indian dam could absorb the excess volume, protecting downstream areas from flooding. It is a defensive move, a way to build resilience against China's upstream manipulations. A second critical pillar of India's strategy is a significant enhancement of its surveillance capabilities. the Indian Space Research Organization, or ISRO, has been tasked with dedicating significant satellite resources to monitor the Tibetan Plateau. High-resolution imagery is being used to track every stage of the Mochuo Dam's construction, from the initial excavation to the final filling of the reservoir. This constant monitoring also allows India to keep a close watch on water levels and flow rates in the Yarlung Tsangpo, providing an independent source of data rather than relying on Chinese goodwill. This technological vigilance is designed to create an early warning system, giving India precious time to react to any sudden changes in the river's behavior. Diplomacy remains a key tool, but its tone has sharpened. In January 2025, India's Ministry of External Affairs lodged a formal protest with Beijing, expressing its grave concerns and demanding transparency and a joint mechanism for water management. While these diplomatic overtures have been met with familiar rhetoric from China, they serve the important purpose of placing India's objections on the international record. More significantly, India is changing its broader strategic doctrine on water. The earlier revocation of the Indus Waters Treaty with Pakistan following geopolitical tensions in 2023 was a clear signal. It demonstrated that New Delhi is now willing to view water not just as a shared resource, but as an instrument of statecraft, a message aimed as much at Beijing as at Islamabad. This strategic shift signals a hardening of India's position. The era of quiet accommodation is over, replaced by a more assertive and proactive approach. The combination of building defensive infrastructure, leveraging advanced surveillance technology, engaging in firm diplomacy, and signaling a new strategic willingness to use water as leverage constitutes a comprehensive response. India is sending a clear message to China. It will not passively accept a situation where its water security is compromised. The tiger is pushing back, determined to protect its interests and maintain a semblance of balance in a region being rapidly reshaped by the dragon's ambitions. Recognizing that it cannot face this challenge alone, India is actively strengthening its water-sharing alliances with its other neighbors, particularly the co-riparian states of Bangladesh and Bhutan. New Delhi understands that a united front among downstream nations presents a more formidable diplomatic challenge to China's unilateral actions. The focus of this renewed river diplomacy is to create a framework of cooperation and mutual support, turning shared vulnerability into collective strength. This involves enhancing existing water-sharing agreements, improving real-time data exchange, and coordinating positions on international forums to amplify their shared concerns about upstream activities on the Brahmaputra. With Bangladesh, a nation even more vulnerable to changes in the Brahmaputra's flow, India is working to build trust and demonstrate its commitment as a responsible midstream partner. This includes improving the transparency and timeliness of data sharing on river flows from its own territory, particularly during the monsoon season, to help Bangladesh better manage floods. By solidifying the Teesta River Treaty and other bilateral water agreements, India aims to create a model of cooperative basin management. This not only helps Bangladesh, but also serves as a powerful counter-narrative to China's opaque approach, highlighting the benefits of collaboration over unilateralism and positioning India as a regional leader in responsible water governance. The relationship with Bhutan is also a critical component of this strategy. Several of the Brahmaputra's key tributaries originate in or flow through the Himalayan kingdom. India has long been a major partner in developing Bhutan's hydropower potential, a partnership built on mutual benefit and respect. By reinforcing these ties, India helps secure the health and stability of the river system's eastern tributaries, creating a degree of resilience against manipulations on the main channel in Tibet. A strong Indo-Bhutanese partnership on water resources acts as a strategic bulwark, ensuring that at least a significant portion of the Brahmaputra basin remains under a cooperative and predictable management regime, free from Beijing's direct influence. This diplomatic outreach extends beyond the immediate neighborhood. India is increasingly vocal about the issue on global platforms, framing China's actions not just as a bilateral dispute, but as a threat to international norms on shared water resources. By raising the profile of hydrohegemony, India seeks to build a broader coalition of support and pressure China to adhere to principles of transparency, consultation, and equitable use. The goal is to weave a complex web of regional and international alliances that can collectively push back against the dragon's unilateralism. It is a patient, painstaking process, but one that India sees as essential to ensuring that the rivers of the Himalayas remain sources of life, not instruments of conflict. Beyond the geopolitical chessboard, the Mochuo Dam project carries immense and terrifying physical risks. The dam is being constructed in one of the most seismically active regions on the planet. The Himalayan mountain range is the result of the ongoing collision between the Indian and Eurasian tectonic plates, making the area prone to powerful earthquakes. Building the world's largest dam in such a volatile geological zone is a gamble of epic proportions. The sheer weight of the massive reservoir itself can induce seismicity, a phenomenon known as reservoir-induced seismicity, or RIS, potentially increasing the frequency and intensity of tremors in an already fragile region. The nightmare scenario that haunts seismologists and downstream communities alike is that of a catastrophic dam failure. A major earthquake striking near the dam could breach the structure, unleashing a wall of water of unimaginable scale. This would send a devastating flood downstream, wiping out everything in its path through Arunachal Pradesh, Assam, and into Bangladesh. The loss of life and destruction of infrastructure would be catastrophic, a humanitarian disaster on a scale rarely seen. Even China's own engineers have acknowledged the risks, but the political will to proceed has evidently overridden these grave safety concerns, leaving millions of people downstream living under the shadow of a potential man-made apocalypse. The environmental toll of the project is equally alarming, promising to leave deep and permanent scars on a unique and pristine ecosystem. The Tibetan Plateau, often called the Third Pole, is home to a delicate biodiversity that has evolved over millennia. The construction of the dam and the flooding of the vast reservoir area will destroy forests, wetlands, and critical habitats for numerous rare and endangered species. It will fundamentally alter the river's ecology, disrupting fish migration patterns and changing the very character of the water. This is not just a local environmental issue. The health of the Tibetan Plateau has far-reaching implications for regional climate patterns and the stability of Asia's great rivers. Environmental groups have been raising the alarm for years, warning of irreversible damage. They point out that the dam will trap the nutrient-rich silt that is vital for the fertility of the downstream floodplains, a process that will slowly but surely degrade the agricultural productivity of Assam and Bangladesh. This loss of sediment will also lead to increased riverbed erosion downstream, threatening bridges, embankments, and riverside communities. China's narrative of clean energy conveniently ignores this devastating ecological price tag. The pursuit of power, both electrical and political, is set to sacrifice one of the world's last great wildernesses, with consequences that will ripple down the river for centuries to come. While headlines focus on geopolitical strategy and engineering marvels, the first and most direct victims of the Mochuo Dam are the local Tibetan people. The vast area slated to be submerged by the reservoir is home to ancient villages, monasteries, and sacred sites. These communities, who have lived in harmony with the river for centuries, are facing forced relocation. Their way of life, their cultural heritage, and their spiritual connection to the land are being irrevocably destroyed to make way for concrete and turbines. The Chinese government portrays these relocations as a step towards modernization and poverty alleviation, but for the people being moved, it is the erasure of their identity. The process is marked by a complete lack of transparency and consultation. Decisions are made in Beijing, and local voices are systematically silenced. We have seen this pattern before. In 2024, reports emerged of a brutal crackdown on Tibetan monks and villagers protesting another dam project on the Yangtze River's tributary. Hundreds were arrested, and many suffered serious injuries for peacefully opposing the destruction of their homes and a 13th-century monastery. This heavy-handed response sends a chilling message to anyone in the Medog region who might dare to speak out against the Mochuo project. The human cost is rendered invisible, a footnote in the grand narrative of national development. The cultural devastation is immense. The Yarlung Tsangpo's Great Bend is not just a geographical feature, it is a sacred landscape in Tibetan Buddhism, a place of pilgrimage and deep spiritual significance. The flooding of this area represents a profound desecration of a holy site, an act of cultural vandalism carried out in the name of progress. This loss is immeasurable and cannot be compensated for with new housing or government subsidies. It is an attack on the very soul of a people, further marginalizing the Tibetan population within their own homeland and accelerating the erosion of their unique culture under the pressure of state-led development projects. This tragic human story serves as a stark reminder that megaprojects like the Motuo Dam are never just about energy or economics. They are about power in its rawest form. The power of the state over its citizens, the power of the center over the periphery, and the power of a dominant culture over a minority. The silenced protests and forced relocations in Tibet are the hidden human cost of China's hydro ambitions. As the world debates the dam's strategic implications for India and Bangladesh, it is crucial to remember the first casualties, the Tibetan people, whose lives and heritage are being sacrificed at the altar of the dragon's grand design. While India is the most powerful downstream nation confronting China, it is arguably Bangladesh that is the most vulnerable. As the last country in the Brahmaputra's path before it flows into the Bay of Bengal, Bangladesh is entirely at the mercy of the actions of both its upstream neighbors, India and China. The river, known as the Jamuna in Bangladesh, is central to the nation's identity, economy, and very survival. It irrigates vast tracts of farmland, supports millions of fishermen, and deposits the fertile silt that has created the Bengal Delta over millennia. Any significant alteration in the river's flow or sediment load poses a direct threat to the country's food security and ecological stability. The news of the Motuo Dam's construction has been received with deep anxiety in Dhaka. Bangladeshi officials and water experts fear a double jeopardy. A reduction in dry season flow due to water being held back by the Chinese dam could exacerbate water scarcity in a country already struggling with a dense population and depleting groundwater. On the other hand, a sudden release of water during the monsoon season, combined with flows from India, could lead to catastrophic flooding on an unprecedented scale. Bangladesh lacks the economic and infrastructural capacity to build the kind of large-scale buffer dams that India is planning, leaving it dangerously exposed. In a formal diplomatic move in February 2025, the Bangladeshi government officially requested more information and data from China regarding the dam's design, operational plans, and potential impacts. This request for transparency is a plea for inclusion in a conversation from which it has been largely excluded. Bangladesh is caught in a delicate diplomatic balancing act. It is heavily reliant on Chinese investment for its development and is a key partner in the Belt and Road Initiative. This makes it difficult for Dhaka to take a strong, confrontational stance against Beijing, despite the grave risks the dam poses to its national interest. The fear is that its concerns will be politely acknowledged but ultimately ignored. For Bangladesh, the Motuo Dam underscores the urgent need for a comprehensive, basin-wide water management treaty that includes all three countries, China, India, and Bangladesh. Such a treaty is the only long-term solution to ensure equitable and reasonable use of the river's resources. However, China has consistently resisted multilateral frameworks, preferring to deal with its neighbors on a bilateral basis where its power is more pronounced. The growing unease in Dhaka is a clear signal that the impacts of the Himalayan dam race will be felt most acutely by the most vulnerable, turning the quest for water security into a matter of national survival for the people of the Bengal Delta. The colossal dam rising in the Great Bend of the Yarlung Tsangpo is more than a feat of engineering. It is a turning point for Asia. It crystallizes a new and dangerous reality where water is being explicitly transformed from a shared natural resource into a potent weapon of geopolitical influence. China's Motuo project, while wrapped in the green rhetoric of clean energy, is fundamentally an assertion of power. The power to control a river that is the lifeline for over 100 million people in downstream India and Bangladesh. This act of hydrohegemony threatens to destabilize an already tense region, creating a future where the specter of man-made floods and droughts looms large over diplomatic relations. India's response, a mix of defensive dam building, heightened surveillance, and assertive diplomacy, is a necessary reaction to this new threat. It marks a paradigm shift, moving away from a traditional reliance on outdated treaties and quiet negotiations towards a more muscular policy where water is acknowledged as a core component of national security. Yet this path of counter-securitization is fraught with its own risks. A dam-building race in the Himalayas, one of the world's most ecologically and seismically fragile regions, is a perilous game. It escalates tensions, deepens mistrust, and pushes the entire subcontinent closer to a conflict where the ultimate loser will be the environment and the vulnerable people who depend on it. The human dimension of this showdown cannot be ignored. From the displaced Tibetan communities at the source to the anxious farmers in the floodplains of Assam and the fishing villages of Bangladesh, the lives and livelihoods of ordinary people hang in the balance. Their voices are often lost in the noise of grand strategy and national pride, yet they are the ones who will pay the highest price for the failure of diplomacy. Their fate is tied to the health and predictability of the river, a stability that is now being threatened by unilateral actions taken thousands of kilometers upstream by a power that is not accountable to them. Ultimately, the Brahmaputra presents a stark choice. It can become a torrent of conflict, a new front line in the rivalry between Asia's giants, or it can become a river of peace, a catalyst for a new era of cooperation. The only sustainable path forward lies in careful diplomacy, transparency, and the establishment of a multilateral, basin-wide institution for water management. China must be persuaded that its long-term interests are better served by being a responsible stakeholder rather than a hydro-hegemon. For India, Bangladesh, and the world, the challenge is to ensure that the rivers that flow from the roof of the world continue to be sources of life and sustenance, not silent weapons in a struggle for dominance.